Police investigating Andrew Tate sex allegations carry out fresh raids across Romania, seizing files and computer equipment from social media star and his brother's girlfriend's properties. Is this a Matrix attack against Andrew Tate, or is he guilty? One prominent Twitter account that follows Andrew Tate and has been tracking the case says that actually, according to the court, there's not enough evidence to actually pursue a criminal charge against him. Thus, he's being detained while they investigate. I find that interesting. I am not here to placate or defend anyone, but I think it is interesting that they're currently investigating while he's detained. If they actually had evidence of wrongdoing, hard evidence, they would have charged him and then arrested him. So it may be that Andrew Tate does get released. But there's a bigger story here in the Andrew Tate saga. Why is it that so many people would rush to defend him? And why is it that so many in the corporate press would rush to smear him? Well, I certainly want to get into this. The media is coming out and saying that he's evil and he's the worst guy in the world. But actually, the clips I've seen from him are not bad. Now, I've seen some bad clips. Don't get me wrong. I'm saying there are a lot of clips that are actually kind of inspirational, telling people to work hard, not to give up, to have a family, to believe in themselves. That is the kind of message I think that the Matrix doesn't want espoused. But does that mean the whole machine is rigged to stop him? I don't know. One thing I can see here is a tweet from Jordan Peterson referencing Andrew Tate and a story from The Telegraph that I'd like you all to see. Young men are in crisis and nobody seems to care. And then I sort of realized something. They kind of bring this up in the article for The Telegraph. Y'all could have had Jordan Peterson, but now you need to understand something. When Jordan Peterson came out and said something very simple, be responsible, be a man, clean your room, bucko. When he said, find the heaviest thing you can carry and carry it, they called him a Nazi. They called him alt-right. They assaulted him. They're trying to rescind his medical license. They're forcing him to undergo re-education for his mean tweets. Yeah, I was talking to Phil. Again, I mentioned him in the last segment. He was like, it's like Trump. You know, Mitt Romney is they say call him all the worst things, and then you end up with Trump. And I'm like, that's exactly what this lady's basically. I think she's basically saying the same thing in this Telegraph article. I don't think Andrew Tate is the villain they make him out to be. I don't think he's the greatest hero or anything in the world, but I understand young men are in crisis, so they will turn to those who seek to empower them. And for all of the things you may accuse Andrew Tate of, maybe he's guilty. I don't know. We'll see. We've got one account saying there's not enough evidence of anything. Some are saying that it's a setup. I mean, you call it a Matrix attack. Yeah, sure. It's like a silly thing to say. Everybody's making fun of this idea. It's like a Matrix attack because they're trying to take down Andrew Tate. But there certainly are, I guess when you look at the political agendas, the way things are going with wokeness, the idea that a man could inspire young men to want to have families, to work hard, to lose weight, yeah, that goes against the grain. And if he's as effective as he is, I think he is, then there'd be reason to stop him. But I don't know, man. I'm not going to read too much into conspiracy theories or anything like that. Let's just read the news, and then let's talk about why young men feel like they need Andrew Tate. The Daily Mail reports, police investigating allegations against controversial social media influencer Andrew Tate and his brother have carried out fresh raids across Romania. In a series of swoops across Bucharest and elsewhere in Romania, police seized paperwork and computer equipment from various properties said to be connected to Tate, including the home of his brother Tristan's girlfriend. It comes as media in the country reported that the British consul had visited the brothers in prison where they are being held following their arrest last month. They were held as part of a huge investigation into claims that several women had been trafficked and raped by Luton-born Tate and his brother as part of an organized criminal empire. I actually don't think, I think the media is overhyping the allegations because I'm pretty sure they haven't been charged, but let's read. A statement issued by the Directorate for the Investigation of Organized Crime and Terrorism said this morning, the prosecutors of DICOT Central Structure, in the continuation of the investigations in the case regarding the commission of the crimes of constituting an organized criminal group, human trafficking and rape, implement 7 home search warrants within the radius of Bucharest municipality and Ilfov counties and Pravhova. Judicial activities are carried out together with police officers from BCCO, Bucharest, and SCCO, Ilfov. Quote, we make it clear that during the entire criminal process, the investigated persons benefit from the procedural rights and guarantees provided by the Code of Criminal Procedure, as well as the presumption of innocence. That's very important, isn't it? One of the homes searched was that of Romania kickboxer and cage fighter Vlad Obu, with paperwork and computers seized and taken away. Interesting. And why are they posting images? Well, I guess these are images directly from Andrew Tate himself. But many people pointed out that when they were doing some of these raids, they were revealing what it was like inside these buildings. Meanwhile, Mail Online can also reveal that one of the two women dubbed Tate's angels and who were arrested at the same time is being given compassionate leave from custody. Former police officer Luana Radu, 32, has been given a 3-hour license so she can attend the funeral of her grandmother in Bucharest later on Thursday. She quit the force 8 years ago to focus on sex video chat room work with Georgiana Nagahel, 28, and investigators say both had a role to coerce and control other women involved in the business. Tate, 36, a British U.S. citizen who has 4.5 million followers on Twitter, was detained on December 29th in Bucharest along with his brother Tristan and 2 Romanian women. We have this tweet from Suleiman Ahmed, PhD candidate researchers, master's in philosophy, verified Twitter user, who said, Andrew Tate, judge's ruling on rape. I have reviewed the allegation against the Tates, and it's very weak. I'm surprised they were arrested. Romanian authorities have gone in without there being much substance behind the arrest. But let's review the evidence. There are 2 accounts of rape by the Moldovan woman. She has left the country. There is no info on where she is. I wonder if she has been given asylum in the U.S. If that's the case, it seems a bit suspicious. Speculation. If not, let's move on to the rest of the evidence. They say, what evidence is there? Just the witness statement of the Moldovan woman. According to Tate's lawyer, both her and the U.S. woman also went to a non-approved specialist for an evaluation after they left. In reality, other than the woman's statements, there is no evidence. Does the evidence meet the standard for prosecution or conviction? The answer is no. On page 4 of the ruling, it explains the 3 levels of evidence. 1, to refer to court to remand. 2, to prosecute. And 3, to convict. The evidence only meets the first bar, according to the judge. Now, that's big. That's why they're currently investigating. They've detained him. Now they're investigating. Maybe they'll turn up with nothing. Maybe they'll turn up with something. I don't know. Again, I'm not here to defend anybody, but I think this is an important thing to point out. So far, he is presumed innocent. He is remanded, but they are investigating now. It seems a little backwards as to how they do things in the U.S. They investigate, they gather evidence, preponderance of evidence, then they seek an indictment if they can offer up enough to a grand jury. Suleiman goes on to say there are 2 points of concern. In order to remand Tate, the judge relied on 2 things. Firstly, he didn't believe Tate. How did he make such a judgment when they only had 45 minutes to mount their defense? It seems he based this on Tate's online content. Now, that's an important one right there. I got to be honest. Tate's content is bombastic. Now, I think one of the arguments they made, I could be wrong on this one, is that it's a character he plays. He tries to be over the top in his personality, and it's an exaggeration. I think that's probably true. And if that's the case, the judge is looking at what is an entertaining character meant to elicit emotion and then charging someone or remanding them. I'm sorry, he hasn't been charged, but remanding him based on that. You know, in this world, in the modern era, it is difficult when, people create personas and then try to play things up. We'll see how this one plays out. I don't want to say too much like it's akin to a person being arrested if they're an actor and playing a character, because Tate plays himself, but an exaggerated version of himself, so they argue. Suleiman goes on to say the second is that despite Tate's clean record, they placed weight on the false allegation of rape in the UK. How can you value a complaint that was dropped by the CPS as it was deemed false? I refuted the related Vice hit piece in this thread. He goes on to say Vice produced a hit piece on the Tate brothers. In this hit, they claim that Tate choked a woman and raped one. They allege the UK police's delays caused CPS to drop the investigation. Tate's lawyers stated that there were no new facts from April to December. So what changed? What's worrying is the judge based his decision on social media clips. Not a good look for Romanian judicial system. It's as bad as the Twitter kangaroo court we saw in the first 2 days. To summarize, I agree with the judge and Tate Bro's lawyer. The evidence does not meet the standard for prosecution, let alone conviction. One hopes the Romanian authorities don't make a fool of themselves on the world stage, as we value justice above everything else. Mario Nawfal, who's actually been fairly critical of Tate, says, great thread. One of the few pro-Tate accounts using logic and research. And I'll just say this. If the judge outright said there's only enough for remand, then this seems to be, I guess you call it a matrix attack. Look, in the United States, we do things a little differently. You can be under investigation, but you're still free. They collect a preponderance of evidence presented to a grand jury to get an indictment. They then have to build their case against you and continue their investigation. It looks like things are working a little bit backwards there, where they're like, okay, someone made an allegation. We are going to remand you on the spot. Now, sure, that can happen in the U.S., but it seems like there needs to be a little bit more than just an accusation. I mean, I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure someone accusing you of something isn't enough for them to remand you. There's got to be some kind of preponderance of evidence. So we'll see. But I saw this tweet from Jordan Peterson, and it got me thinking as to why Andrew Tate actually is so important to so many people. Peterson says, Gaston or the redeemable beast? I stand for the latter, and so do the wise beauties. Okay, but maybe that's it. Let me talk about Andrew Tate, the video clips that I've seen. I watched a video clip from him recently where he says, have kids. I'm going to teach my kids. I'm going to make them little versions of myself. They're going to be amazing and strong and carry on my legacy. And I'm like, okay, how many people are telling young men to do this? To be strong, to be fit, to work hard, to exercise, to get out there, to have a family, to have kids, to be better. Relatively few. Strong personalities, at least. I mean, we had Eliza Blue on the show, and she said, he's not saying anything new. And I'm like, I don't know, man. People are looking for strong role models. There are certainly some guys who do this stuff, but Tate is a world-renowned fighter, wealthy individual. He's a leader, whether you like him or not. And I am not saying he's innocent or guilty. I'm just saying dude is clearly a leader who's inspired people to do better. Plain and simple. Now, you can argue that he's inspired people to do worse with his bombastic persona, but in my view, what we end up with, I'll put it this way, as I stated earlier. You were offered a Jordan Peterson, a mild-mannered clinical psychologist who wants you to clean your room, and you called him a Nazi. So what happens? Young men say the only thing that's going to get us through this is a strong man. Mitt Romney couldn't do it, so they turned to Trump. Jordan Peterson couldn't do it. To an extent, he did. Don't get me wrong. But they went after him anyway. So finally, people just say, I will take the guy who tells me to fight, who speaks with fierce vigor and calls out the machine. And even the Telegraph, they seek to smear him. But let's read what they say. The Telegraph writes, the liberal left has cried wolf for years. In the run-up to the 2012 presidential election, they denounced mild-mannered Mitt Romney as a fascist. Literally Hitler. Donald Trump proved a rude awakening. But come on. Trump was a moderate too. They go to mention Jordan Peterson, the polite Canadian academic known for his dispensing gentle wisdom to young men, who is portrayed as the epitome of toxic masculinity. Once again, more sinister figures were waiting in the wings. Until recently, many of us were blessedly unaware of the existence of Andrew Tate, the kickboxer turned millionaire influencer, who was arrested in Romania last month. He stands accused of shocking crimes, trafficking women and forcing them to produce pornographic content, which he denies. Yet he has also amassed a vast following among young men. Before being shut down, his TikTok account had garnered more than 11 billion views. Last year, he was one of the most Googled people on the planet. How badly have we failed our young men if someone like Tate is their idol? I'm going to pause right there. Why? I'll tell you why I like some of what Andrew Tate says. And I say some because I don't listen to everything he says. Because there's a video where he said, and I'll shout this out to the ends of the earth, it was brilliant. He said, whether I'm happy or not is irrelevant. If I wake up unhappy, I have to do the exact same thing I would do if I was happy. And I thought to myself, wow, now that's something. He's completely right. I saw his video where he's walking around and he says, You cannot stop halfway. You have to keep working every single day. The rocket ship to the moon doesn't stop halfway to chill out. No, it keeps going till it gets there. And I was like, that's a fantastic way to put it. And I feel that. I don't take breaks. We had a holiday recently, but every day I wake up and I work. And this past week, I kicked into high gear and started producing more segments. And I thought to myself, what's the point? You know, when we had this time off over the holiday, what did we do? We spent some time. I spent time with my girlfriend. We traveled around. We had some fun. And I thought to myself, to what end? You know, the work is the mission, is the life, is the goal. There's a lot of things to work for. Work doesn't just mean laying bricks or talking on the internet. Work means fighting for your family and having a family. And sometimes you need to relax. That's a part of work. But you can't lose sight of the mission. Taking time off is good because recovery is an important process. Sharpening your blade. You know, it's the old story. Two guys go out, lumberjacks or whatever, and the guy says, whoever chops down the most trees will get a bonus. And the one guy sits down and starts sharpening his axe, and the other guy just starts whacking down the trees. After about an hour, one guy's chopped down 10 trees. I don't know how long it takes. And then the guy sitting there with his now sharpened axe gets up and starts hacking away. Eventually, the guy who didn't sharpen his blade is getting tired, and the blade is becoming dull and blunt and having a harder time cutting into the trees. But the man with the sharpened axe, who took his time and relaxed and made sure he did it right, is going 5 times faster. That's what I'm saying. But my main point is, if you only sit around just sharpening the axe, then you're not actually doing anything. The mission itself matters. This is why Andrew Tate is influential. It's not about him going on podcasts and being like, I got all these women and these women want to be with me. For a lot of people, that's a big component. But I didn't see those videos, not until they started accusing him of these things. The influence that I saw from Tate was him being like, work hard, have a family, don't stop working. And I was like, I like those clips. He did have one, though, that I liked. He talks about how he says women get their value from God and L'Oreal. He's like, you know, women are at their peak in their, you know, late teens, 19, 20 years old. And they've got all these guys who want to do things for them. They can attract older men. And that was given to them by God and L'Oreal. And he's like, I had to work hard every single day. And then when all these women were going around and hooking up with everybody, they get older and they expect him, now at his peak value, to be monogamous to them. And he says, F you. Now, of course, I don't agree with the don't be monogamous thing. That's not for me. I think that the more valuable, I suppose more traditional is find a person to team up with, have a family. It's part of the mission. But I understand what he's saying. He is making a good point. Young people today, particularly these feminists, want it all and expect everything from you. The point that I got out of that was you work your hands to the bone for what you get and they demand you hand it over to them. Of course, his message was centered in dating and stuff like that. But I can understand why people don't like what he was saying. But the message I got from that was there are people who work for nothing and expect that you, who works hard, to give up everything. Communism. Here's what they say. Until recently, many of us were unaware of Tate. She goes on to say, how badly we failed our young men. No surprise that he appeals to teenagers. Despite his 36 years, Tate appears fundamentally never to have grown up. I'm too smart to read, he announces. Sure you are, Andrew. I need action. I need constant chaos. I need to be driving a supercar and effing fighting and effing a bunch of hoes. You know why that's inspirational? These people don't get it. I've talked about this before. I like books. I like reading. But I typically just read the internet. That's the thing. So I don't know if I'm pretty sure what Tate was saying. He has this viral video where he was like, I don't read books. He's like, I read online. Something like that. I could be wrong. But my view of this is I think books are archaic. I think books are great. They're archaic. Why? In the modern era, you can actively fact check what it is you're reading. So I remember reading a physics book. This is a while back, 10 years ago. And I thought it was all fascinating. Later on, I started looking some of these ideas up and found that they had been corrected and they were wrong. And I said, okay, here's a problem. This book contains information. some of which is no longer accurate. Why should I read it? And that's the point. Me, I'm all about reading on the internet. I read nonstop all day, every day. I'm absorbing everything. I don't trust the corporate press. I think they're taking Andrew Tate's comments out of context. That's what I think. I think it's possible he's mean to women. I think it's possible he treats women poorly. I don't know. What I do know is the media lies. What I do know is a lot of the quotes that I've heard seem to be a bit on the nose and over the top. Some of the claims they've made about what he said sound like kink. Like he's like talking to some woman saying things about how he likes to like force her and stuff like that. And I'm like, yo, that sounds like they're role playing. And that's my concern. Is like a dude who's abusing women coming out and being like, I am now going to abuse you. That's right, baby. And so I'm like, But look, I'll say it again. I'm not here to defend or placate. Maybe Andrew Tate is guilty. I just don't know. The evidence currently suggests he will be remanded, but maybe there won't be enough. Maybe there will be. For the time being, I think it's important to realize two things. Young men are in crisis and do need strong role models. Role models who tell them to be powerful. Role models who tell them to improve themselves, to exercise, to eat healthy, to build legacy. Andrew Tate was doing that. People need that. And more importantly, you could have taken Jordan Peterson, but you wanted to play stupid games and win stupid prizes. So now you're going to come crying to me about Andrew Tate. Nah, sorry, I ain't going to hear it. Jordan Peterson inspired young people. He was a father figure, but you didn't like that it wasn't enough. So you mocked, derided, insulted, and smeared him. And so people turn to a man of much more strength, Andrew Tate. I'd like to see how this plays out. I'd like to hear exactly what really happened. Is it true this woman who made the accusation fled and she's gone? Because if that's the case, what evidence is there? And now they're using that as justification to go to his house and seize things? I wouldn't be surprised if they find reasons to convict. But we'll see. It's kind of silly to think that the Matrix attacked him. For what reason, right? I mean, he's just a guy who's about massive dude on the internet. Some have argued it's actually about shutting down trafficking. Maybe. Seriously, I mean, I don't know. I'm not here to defend the guy. But I do think it's possible that if you got a guy who's strong, gaining millions of followers, and doing so by telling young men to be masculine, come on. We've seen every smear in the world about toxic masculinity, about why masculinity is bad. So it's no surprise to me that there are powerful interests trying to stop this guy. It doesn't mean I think that's why they're stopping him. I'm just saying it wouldn't surprise me. But we'll see. I'll leave it there. Next segment's coming up at 4 p.m. over at youtube.com/Timcast. Check it out. Thanks for hanging out, and we'll see you all then.